light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
All up in my house,
All up in my house, I'm gonna let it shine. All up in my house, I'm gonna let it shine. All up in my house, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
this little light of
This
mine,
little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it
out there
shine.
in the dark,
Out there in the dark, I'm gonna let it shine.
gonna let it
Out
shine.
there in the dark, I'm gonna let it shine. Out there in the dark, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
This little light of
This
mine,
little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
It may be really cold outside, but we are going to warm up our souls this evening, clearly through music. So thank you, Cantor, Greta, and Charlie, and David, for the beautiful music that we are just going to experience on this Shabbat. And this Shabbat annually, the Shabbat that immediately precedes Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we honor and we remember the work, the life, the legacy of Dr. King. And I hope there are many of you joining us from home. I know it's cold, I know it's snowing, and so I hope that you are warm and joining with us. And for those of us in the sanctuary, if you picked up a program this evening, if you will turn to the first inside page, we will begin with those first paragraphs. I'll read the first two, and then together we will read the next two. This Shabbat, we honor the life of the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King's faith was guided by the sacred texts of the Bible. And while the Christianity of Dr. King and the Judaism of the Reformed Jewish movement may speak through different words, they share a common vision that is grounded in the godliness of each and every human life and committed to the pursuit of a more just society. Inextricably, we are partners in this struggle. Tonight, we celebrate the strides our country has made in the ongoing struggle for civil rights. We pause and remember all of those who sacrificed their lives for this sacred cause of equality. And tonight, we also realize the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave to all of us is still unfulfilled. The promised land still beckons, but he has set our feet on the path, and if we who followed him in life are faithful now, we shall yet overcome. Together we read. We begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in our lives. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, nor semantics and no services, but we need them. Through our prayer, we sense our inner strength, our inner purpose, our inner joy, our capacity to love. As we reach upward in prayer, we sense these qualities in our Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. And this Shabbat, I am honored to invite forward to our bima to lead us in our candles and kiddush, Debbie, Aaron, Adam, and Rachel Wall. Adam will be celebrating his bar mitzvah tomorrow morning here in our congregation. And if you'd like to follow along, we turn to page 121 in our prayer book, 120. Come all the way up.
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own way, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlich ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, who sanctifies us with mitzvot and commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Amen. If all of you can stand in the congregation, those of you online, if you wish to as well, or raise yourselves to a higher plane of holiness, and so we stand to elevate our souls as we offer it and connect through the Shabbat with God. We will have the English introduction, which is actually taken from the close of the first chapter of the book of Genesis, which ordains the Shabbat, and we will hear that reading in English.
Yours is Jews, the English reading.
And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
And on page 123, we sing this prayer of gratitude, the Kiddushat Hayom, the sanctification today of the Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho, be'ahav v'ratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techiro mikro kodesh, זכר לציון בצריים, כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושמרת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. And we say together, Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim, L'chaim, to life, because life is, of course, good. Please be seated.
You can just put it right there. Very good. You may. Shabbat Shalom. So each year for probably a decade now, the red chair it hasn't been more than a decade that it's come on the bima. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. No. I became senior rabbi in 2011, and we did not get the chair into the office until 12 or 13. I'll tell you the story of the chair. So, in the early 1960s, this chair was in Rabbi Grolman's office in the Skinker building, and Dr. King was coming to speak in St. Louis. He was speaking in a synagogue. Rabbi Grolman said, "Please, you may use our building to speak in the community." And he arrived very early and was sitting with Rabbi Grolman in his office, and Dr. King fell asleep and took a nap for a few hours in this chair. 4 hours? A 4-hour nap. It is a comfortable chair. It still works. Took a 4-hour nap in this chair. This red chair then became this big lore at UH. When I came here 20 years ago, I heard about it. And about a year after I became senior rabbi, Mrs. Grolman said, "Do you want the red chair?" I said, "There really is a red chair?" "Yes, there's a red chair. The rabbi, when they switched buildings, it came to our home." And so this chair that Dr. King took a nap in, that was in Rabbi Grolman's office, sat in their home for many years, and she gave the chair back to United Hebrew, and it spends the majority of its time in my office. And we always bring this chair out lovingly to remember, though Dr. King did not stand on this bima, spiritually he is on this bima as he stood on our bima in our Skinker building. And so we remember his spirit. It resides in that chair, among other places. But this evening, I am so delighted to welcome to our bima Senator Brian Williams, and I'm going to read his biography in just a minute. But I first want to say thank you. Thank you not just for coming to speak tonight, but since October 7th, you have been by our sides. You have shown up in every way possible to say that you stand with the Jewish community. And for that, thank you. We feel it. We feel your friendship, and we are so grateful for your friendship. And what an honor to have you here tonight to share your words. But on behalf of this community and on behalf of the entire Jewish community, thank you for standing with us and for supporting us during this time. And so Senator Williams has proudly represented the 14th Senatorial District in St. Louis County since 2018. He served as the Assistant Minority Floor Leader from 2020 to 2022. He is the first Black male to serve in the Missouri Senate in 2 decades. He was drawn to public service after studying government and public health policy, a passion that eventually led him to the U.S. Congress. He worked as a congressional staffer for several years, and during this time, he oversaw Missouri's rollout of the Affordable Care Act marketplace under President Obama's administration and helped land the $1.75 billion new headquarters of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency in North St. Louis City. While his list of legislative accomplishments is vast, his work in Jefferson City truly reflects the best interests of his underserved community. Thanks to his diplomacy and advocacy, sickle cell patients may access their needed medications. Students will learn about the atrocity of the Holocaust with his designation of Holocaust Education Week, and disabled individuals who have ABLE savings accounts will be protected from losing federal benefits. To address racial profiling and police misconduct, Senator Williams passed legislation to ban the use of respiratory chokeholds, establish the nation's strongest use of force database, and permit prosecutors to file a motion to vacate convictions in light of new evidence that proves the person's innocence. During the 2022 legislative session, Senator Williams proudly secured $98 million for North St. Louis projects, including $40 million for the University of Missouri St. Louis to construct the campus of the future, $15 million to manufacture active pharmaceutical ingredients, $23 million to build a public safety training facility, $7 million for public transit assistance to renovate the St. Louis Metro Employment and Training Center in Wellston, and $400,000 for youth build works. In addition to legislative duties, Senator Williams hosts the annual Human Trafficking Awareness Day at the state capitol, which convenes advocates, stakeholders, and legislators to address this menacing issue. He serves as a board director for People's Health Center, where he helped develop a behavioral health care center for underserved children. He is also a member of the advisory boards for the Alzheimer's Association, Refuge and Restoration, St. Louis Crisis Nursery, Simmons Bank, iHeartMedia, Nurses for Newborns, and the University City Children's Center. Senator Williams currently resides in University City and is a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and we are delighted and honored to welcome you to our Bema this evening.
I still think it is very awkward to listen to someone read your bio. So, Rabbi Rosenberg, thank you. And I couldn't help but notice she has such a beautiful voice. Listening to her sing "This Little Light of Mine," thank you. It's Friday, but it truly felt like Sunday for a second for me. I would like to also thank the United Hebrew Congregation for having me this evening. It is truly a great honor to be with all of you in person as well as virtual. I believe we have some folks that are streaming in, so good evening to all of you. As I thought about celebrating this Shabbat service with you, honoring Dr. King and reflecting on his message, as a new father, I do not have the luxury of a 4-hour nap anymore. However, that chair does look very comfortable, so maybe I'll take a nap before I go back home. 55 years ago, Dr. King wrote his final book titled, "Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community?" That is a question that's still relevant in 2024. As it was 5 decades ago, today it seems terror has griped our globe. October 7th, massacre by Hamas terrorists against Israel, was the deadliest day for Jewish people since the Holocaust. Now that atrocity still weighs heavy on our hearts, as Rabbi Rosenberg noted very eloquently earlier today. And as the hostages who remain in captivity are foremost and still remain in our prayers. Meanwhile, here at home, our nation still remains deeply divided. And young people are questioning if the American dream of home ownership, job security, and deciding when and how to have a family is still within their reach, or if it is a relic of a bygone era. When I think about facing these challenges and more, I consistently ask the question, where do we go from here? You know, as a young man, my mom, my grandmother, they taught me if I saw problems to do everything I possibly could to fix them whenever and wherever I could. Now, in the state Senate, I strive to achieve that purpose every single day. In the Missouri Capitol, we stand on the shoulders of many giants and I'm hoping to be able to continue the work of those who have came before me. Legends like T.D. Ted McNeil. Now, Ted McNeil was a civil rights activist right here in the St. Louis region in the 1930s and 40s. He had to come up the hard way, working as a sleeping car attendant with the railroad and as a leader with his labor union. Now, during World War II, McNeil was the president of the St. Louis branch of the March on Washington movement. Now, this movement was dedicated to making sure that Black Americans were able to obtain good jobs in the manufacturing industry, an industry that was in full swing during the war. In the summer of 1942, McNeil led 400 members as they marched on St. Louis factories to protest the lack of training for Black Missourians, the lack of jobs for Black women, and the lack of advancement for Black workers. Later that summer, McNeil and the March on Washington movement held a rally for workers' rights. And that was held right here in St. Louis, where there was more than 9,000 people that showed up. That's not chaos, if you ask me. I would argue that's community. And one thing that it did was, it simply worked. By 1943, there was more than 250 defense-related manufacturers in the city. They started hiring Black workers, and the Missouri Historical Society estimates that McNeil and his organization were responsible for obtaining 15,000 jobs for Black St. Louisans during World War II, 2 decades before the Civil Rights Act. But he didn't stop there. In 1960, McNeil was elected as the first Black person to the Missouri State Senate. It was said that when Ted took the floor in the Missouri Senate, everything stopped and all of the attention was on him. He would go on to become the first Black man to serve on the Board of Curators for the University of Missouri System and the first Black man to serve as the president of the Board of Police Commissioners for the city of St. Louis. Senator McNeil blazed a trail for others to follow, and others did. In 1962, Deverne Calloway was elected the first Black woman to the Missouri State Senate. And in 1977, Senator Gwen Giles was the first Black woman to serve in the state Senate after her. And in the decades that followed, Black men and women continued to serve in both chambers in the Missouri legislature. Now, that's community. So, I know that when I stand on the floor in the Missouri State Senate, in that same chamber where Ted McNeil stood over 60 years ago, I stand on the shoulders of many, many, many giants. So I have to do one thing, as my grandfather would always say, I have to stand tall. Because, as we all know, the work endures. But the ugly truth is, racism still exists in our society. There's still discrimination against Black Missourians. And there's still things that we can do, elected officials can do, to help bend our moral arc towards justice. You know, in the last few years, we've passed comprehensive police reform, as Rabbi Rosenberg stated earlier. We passed legislation that was banning chokeholds. We gave new authority to local prosecutors to free the innocent. And in doing so, we were able to free gentlemen like Kevin Strickland in Kansas City, who was in prison for 43 years for a crime he did not commit. And right here in the St. Louis region, Lamar Johnson, who was in prison for almost 30 years for a crime he did not commit. So, from being able to address their wrongful imprisonment, we also funded diversity training and de-escalation tactics for law enforcement. And we made huge investments in job training and mental health services. And we also ensured that folks in our region have access to quality, affordable housing. We put historic funding towards lifting up crumbling schools and making sure that every student, you all aren't listening, every student gets the education that they need to succeed. But, as I stated before, the work endures. Our job is not done. There's too much violence in our streets today. Illness and disease still haunt our communities. And there's still people out there armed with lies and armed with weapons that still to this day want to attack our democracy. The world is presenting us with chaos, but we choose and have chosen community. We can look to the better angels of our nature and work towards a brighter future. But as we do ask ourselves the question by Dr. King 55 years ago, and also in that chair, where do we go from here? In search of answers, I turn to the words of a famous Black author named James Baldwin, who said, "Know from whence you came. If you know from whence you came, there is absolutely no limitations to where you can go." Baldwin stood with Dr. King at the Lincoln Memorial in 1963 when Dr. King delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. Baldwin knew that an honest acknowledgement of the past was the only way to move forward in the future. To know where we're going, we must know from whence we came. We must know our history in order to build our future. A future where communities, our families, and our young people have, as Baldwin said, absolutely no limitations to where they can go. We know from whence we come, and we know that the journey is not done. So, my question for all of you, where do we go from here? We go forward. Better schools, safer streets, healthier communities, and a democracy that protects our sacred right to vote. That's what I'm working for every single day in the Missouri Senate, and it's truly been an honor to represent this region and this state. As James Baldwin said, this community, this region, this state this congregation, there is absolutely no limitations to where we can go. Thank you so much for the opportunity to deliver during your Shabbat service. I am truly grateful for the relationship and partnership I've established with this community. And as we said earlier, we will continue to move forward. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Senator Williams, as you shared James Baldwin's quote, it reminds me of a piece of Jewish tradition as well. We talk about the door of a door from generation to generation as a chain that we continually add on to new pieces. And the beauty of Baldwin's message and the imagery of the chain is that each link may not be exactly the same, and yet the goal is to make them as strong as they can be, even if they are a little bit different. And to me, that's that similar message of community, of what it means to be in community, is that we may not all be exactly the same, but we can work on strengthening those links so that we can all strengthen the chain in which we all exist. And so as we come to this Shabbat, as we come to the moment when we welcome in the Sabbath bride, we're supposed to have this vision of what the world might be if it's just a little bit better. And so as we move forward into Shabbat, we turn to page 138 and join in L'chad Dodi.
L'chad Dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chad Dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Shmo v'zachor b'ribur echad, ishmi'anu El Hamyuchad, Adonai Echad, U'Shemo Echad, Shemo Tiferet Ve'Tila. L'chad Dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chad Dodi likra kala, Shabbat nikavela. Klad Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, king akord al beracha, berosh mikedem nesucha, tzef ma'aseh v'machshav batchila. Everyone stand, please. Face the back of the congregation as we welcome in Shabbat. B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chad Dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Bo'I v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. l'chad Dodi likra kala, b'nei Shabbat nikavela. Adoti likakala. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Adoti likakala. B'nei Shabbat nikabela. Adoti likakala. B'nei Shabbat nikabela.
We remain standing as we turn to page 146 for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch
We remain standing as we turn to page 2 of our handout at the very bottom. And here I quote Rabbi Maurice N. Eisendrath. Judaism gave mankind its first civil rights program. It was expressed in the Shema, the watchword of the Jewish faith. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. As God is one, mankind is one, for each is created equally in the image of God. And so we proclaim the oneness of the divine with Shema Yisrael on page 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Please be seated as we turn to page 154 and we join together in the English of Ve'ahavta. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. Together, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. And on page 158, we join in our Song of Freedom, sung on the shore of the sea, Mi Chamocha.
כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נטל בקודש מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נטל בקודש נורא תגילו ספר נורא תגילו ספר מלכותך גאו בניך חוקי הים לפני משה בים סיירי אנו ויאמר אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Turn to page 160 for the Hashkivenu. This prayer that asks that God watch over us also encourages us to have courage and strength, for God is with us as we move forward. And so as we sing this song, we will also intersperse some readings, inspiration on this, the Shabbat of Martin Luther King Jr.'s day.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim.
An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope.
People fail to get along because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because they have not communicated with each other.
There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right.
Courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles. Cowardice is submissive surrender to circumstances. Courage breeds creativity. Cowardice represses fear and is mastered by it. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when we must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right.
Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, Hashivenu Adonai, Eloheinu L'Shalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
Page 163.
A thought has blown the marketplace away.
There's a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song
In
of the silence in the night, and eternity utters a day. Eternity utters a day. Yai, 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 has blown the marketplace away. There's a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song of silence in the night, and eternity utters a day. And eternity utters a day. Yai, 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 yai,
Please rise as we turn to page 164.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'Konei Hakol Ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai mechayeh hakol atarav ve'hoshia matshiv haruach u'morid hagashem mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim somech nofrim verofeh holim umatir asurim ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. בי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלוך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 170. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. In this moment of the Amidah, in place of the traditional prayers that we read of gratitude, worship, and peace, this evening we use the reading on page 3 of our handout, which is inspired by the legacy and the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We read responsively. In a world where the weak are tormented by oppressors, our Torah has taught us to love the poor and the stranger. A heritage of justice has come down to us. Where the sword was sovereign, we were commanded to seek peace and pursue it. A heritage of peace has come down to us. Dr. King had a dream, the ideals of justice, peace, and freedom, and the belief that all are created equal in the eyes of God are noble principles. But they are meaningless unless they become the personal possession of each one of us. I will not keep silent. I will struggle with myself. I will not rest until the dream of justice, peace, and freedom becomes my personal dream. I must realize that I am not an innocent bystander. I can help realize the dream by my action or delay it by inaction. Dr. King dreamed of a day when people from all races and nations, the offspring of slaves and former slave owners, could sit at a table as brothers and sisters and find ways of transforming their differences into assets. That was his dream. What is your dream? My dream is that one day soon I will find a way to stop just celebrating the dream and start living it. It must become a part of my daily life, or nothing much will change. The dream is not about an ideal world. It is about the real world. Dr. King's poetic refrain, "I have a dream," is a call for us to remember the real world where injustice abounds. When I am in the shelter of my home, I must remember the homeless. When I eat, I must remember the hungry. When I feel secure, I must remember the insecure. When I see injustice, I must remember it will not stop unless I stop it. I have a dream. I also have a dream. I have a dream that God will arouse in me the very flame of righteousness that caused Dr. King to rise up and fight for the freedom and liberation of all God's children. Then I will be able to resist injustice everywhere I see it, even within myself. Amen. In this moment of the Amidah, we have so many prayers that we wish to say, and so many that are so close to our heart. As we've mentioned a few times in this service, and as we do and think about all too often in our lives today, since October 7th, we have continued to say a prayer for the state of Israel and the prayer for those still held captive. And so I offered this prayer for the state of Israel, our brothers and sisters who may be half a world away, but live here close in our hearts as well. Avinu Shabashamayim Sur Yisrael V'Goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there, to which we say, Amen. And as Senator Williams, you mentioned earlier, the hostages that are still kept from their families are so much in the forefront of our prayers. And that's why here at United Hebrew for many weeks at this point, we have added and lit this third candle for Shabbat to hold them in our hearts and minds and as a physical reminder of what we still hope. And so I offer this prayer for those still held captive. For our siblings, our brothers, our sisters, the entire family of Israel, all who are in the midst of distress or taken into captivity, whether on sea or on land, may the ever-present one have compassion for them and bring them out from suffering to relief, from darkness to light, from oppression to redemption, now, swiftly, and soon. And let us say, Amen. Amen. And even as our thoughts turn closer to home, to those in our lives and in our community for whom could use prayers of healing, of health and strength and courage, we think of them and we hold them in our hearts. And if you in this moment are thinking of a loved one who could use that prayer of healing or health, I invite you to please rise. And in this moment, we share their names out loud so that the prayers of our community might join together in wishing them health and wholeness. Please share their names. You may be seated. On page 371, we join these prayers of healing. Misha Berach. Truly wish all those in need of healing a refuah shlema, a return to wholeness and health. And so too in this moment we turn our thoughts inward to say the prayers of our own heart. And I invite you to please pray silently.
Sometimes I lay under the moon and thank God I'm breathing. And then I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day, oh. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they feed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving though the waters stay raging. In this maze you can lose your way, your way. It might drive you crazy, but don't let it faze you, no way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down, get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day. One day this all will change, treat people the same, stop with the violence, down with the hate. One day we'll all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom like way up, way up, way up, way up. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play one day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day.
Now that was a tough act to follow. Shabbat Shalom. My name is Jim Sussman. I'm president of the UH Board of Trustees. I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, State Senator Brian Williams. I'd like to thank Greta and Charlie for the beautiful music they're providing us this evening. And I'd like to extend a welcome to Debbie and Aaron Wall and your family on the occasion of the bar mitzvah of your son. Tomorrow at UH, we have Torah study at 9 a.m. in the chapel or on Zoom. And as I just said, the bar mitzvah of Adam Wall will be at 10:30 tomorrow morning in the Millstone Sanctuary and on live stream. Upcoming events, February 3rd at 1 p.m. is the Singing Bowl Meditation, weather permitting. I'm guessing that's an outside event. February 4th at 4 p.m., Family Holiday Cooking Series will be about baking challah. On February 14th at 7:30, it's becoming my favorite thing, Whiskey and Wisdom, in the Kaplansky Center. And on February 28th at 6 p.m., intergenerational game night. For information and on additional upcoming classes and programs, please visit our temple website. Thank you to our tech team for making it possible for all of us to be together virtually this evening. And please check our website or call the office for our gift shop hours. Shabbat Shalom.
And as as we begin to conclude our service, we turn in our prayer books to page 586 and we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עצרנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 591, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And we think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the family of Terry Callahan and Ezra Callahan. We are in the period of Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, for Marilyn Franzel, Marcia Sue Heligman, Lisa Luther, Richard Warren Levinson, Harlan Rosenberg, Elaine Safran, Melinda Siegel, Sharon Silverman. This week, this Shabbat, we observe the yahrzeits and we lovingly remember Joan Abrams, Esther Alper, Joseph Barg, Nathan Barg, Lee Barris, Hyman Becker, Les Berger, Harry Birnbaum, Bernard Bornstein, Eva Cohen, Bernard Bernie Cohen, Betty Lander Cowan, Rosanna Gacy Culp, Gloria Stern Ellis, Sigmund Essler, Jerry Lynn Fox, Stan Friedman, Palmir Gilbert, Jack Gilden, Nathaniel M. Glick, Lottie Clarice Glickman, Edna H. Goldenberg, Bess Catlin Green, Shauna Halpern, Marcus Z. Himes, Harry Kaiser, Esther Coplin Katz, Jacob Coplin, Anna Kretschmar, Bessie Kusmer, Mitchell Allen Lending, Gustav Levy, Francine Merriam, Roswell Messing Sr., Bertha A. Miller, Sylvia Moss, Ludwig Mulfelder, Sue Pfeiffer, Sam Portney, Jane F. Richter, Jacob Sinofsky, Lucille J. Schanfeld, Loretta May Schulman, Anna Siegel, Shay Silberberg, Joe Sirkin, John J. Starr, Rose A. Stone, David Strauss, Marion Strauss, Herman Streifling, Jeanette Sussman, William Tegman, David J. Unger, Minette K. Weinstein, Ben Weissman, Betty J. Wall, Eugene L. Wolfe, Ann Walkowitz, and certainly this Shabbat, so too do we remember Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. If one of these loved ones is yours, I invite you now to rise so that we may recognize the memory of your loved one. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. And I now invite everyone to please rise and stand with our mourners for Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 598. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Bi'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya, yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yit hadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiram be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. And on this Shabbat, as we've heard inspiring words about all of us moving forward together, yes, we are living in a time of tremendous, tremendous chaos. And yet, Senator Williams, your words this evening reminded me of a teaching from our text that says, yes, the day is long and there's a tremendous task that is ahead of us. We don't have to complete the work. We don't have to be the ones to finish it, but we do have to start. We have to start somewhere in that march forward. And so I hope on this Shabbat we are inspired to do just that, even when it seems overwhelming, that task in this world of community and togetherness, that we'll march forward and we'll begin, or at least continue, that task. And we conclude with 2 songs, I believe, as I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. Cantor.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the wind and the rain. In his hands, he's got the wind and the rain. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. Tiny little baby, he's got the tiny little baby. In his hands, he's got the tiny little baby. In his hands, he's got the tiny little baby. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. You and me, he's got you and me, babies. In his hands, he's got you and me, sister. In his hands, he's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got everybody, everybody here. In his hands, he's got everybody. In his hands, he's got everybody. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. Let's bring it back to, he's got the whole world. In his hands, he's got the whole world. In his hands, he's got the whole world. In his hands, he's got the whole world. In his hands. We are going to sing now the anthem of the people. The people that believe that when we lift every voice and sing out, let the heavens ring, liberty. Let our voices rise high as the listening skies. let it resound. Sound is the roaring seas. Lift every voice. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Sing a song. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Raising the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou hast brought us thus far on the way. Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met Thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget Thee. Shadowed beneath Thy head, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.